Okay, let's take maybe a 5-minute break and you can just pause, get some water, stretch, and then we'll begin with day 3. Now, on day 3, we're going to look at the first disciples, the first 4 that Jesus gathered together. But again, the day's reflections start with John the Baptist and points out that he was quite the figure in the desert. I mean, he dressed kind of crazily in camels' skins and ate honey and locusts, but people weren't. I mean, maybe initially they came out to see him and see this crazy prophet, but that was quite a trip to see this. But they actually went into the water and had him baptize them. And Father Gately talks about it was the otherworldliness of St. John the Baptist that really attracted people. Something beyond the earthly appearance. Something so spiritual, so holy, that people wanted that for themselves. So, that's how we should evangelize. It means we need to work on ourselves. We need to become like St. John the Baptist. Well, maybe not with the skins and what we're eating, but so filled with our love for God and wanting to share that we just light up and gleam. I actually have met a couple of people that it was on a retreat to Medjugorje, and Vishka was one of them, and Father Yoso was the other. And they actually seemed like they had a light bulb clicked on inside their head. This light just emanated from them. And in fact, I tried taking all sorts of pictures with my camera of some of Vishka's talks, and it never translated to the film. But I was just enthralled. And that type of love is what we should be striving for, so that our love is just shining so brightly that others want that and come talk to us about how do they get that. No, it's not any kind of retreat you go on or any particular book or song or anything else that you listen to. No, it's love. It's love for the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. And so we need to be able to change ourselves so that we attract others and we can give the gift to them and they can open themselves up and receive the gift freely from God, starting with a baptism. And so as you think about God being the light of the world, you should be the light of the world. Think about what helped you on this journey do that. Who were the people in your life that you came in contact with? What were some of the homilies that you heard in church? Or maybe movies or books or saints that you studied. Remember, St. Ignatius of Loyola was far from putting God first in his life. He was a soldier, he was all about himself, and it wasn't until he was injured and really couldn't get out of bed much, and the only things he had to read were the Bible and stories about saints. And God used that time of what seemed to be a horrible situation and used it to transform him. So be very careful about what you look at, what movies you look at, and instead really make careful choices, because you only have limited time on this world to change yourself and to help others. So right now, when we're sequestered, use this time wisely. There's so much out there that you can get through the computer. All these sources, great Catholic sources that are being offered for free right now out of mercy for all of us. So make sure that you're really trying to grab hold and learn and be influenced by all the right people, all the right situations. One of the other things that we learn in day 3 here is that Jesus, where does Jesus abide? Because that's what these first 4 apostles are wanting to know. Okay, where do you live? Okay, in other words, not just his physical address, if you will, what rocks do you bed down at, okay? And he's going to say, what do you seek? So again, the question is, what were you seeking in the past, and how could that change? What and who can you seek right now? And in seeking Jesus, realize, as what Father Gately said, Jesus abides in the bosom of the Father. That comes right from John's Gospel, chapter 1, verse 18. Jesus abides in the Father's bosom. How many of you would just love to be able to curl up on the lap of your Father and just be held and know that you're so loved and so precious? Well, spend some time in prayer. Imagine that, see that, because that's what the Father wants to do for you. And Jesus wants to lead you to the Father's lap, and just to be still and be silent and just listen to the beat of his heart. Much like a baby in the womb listens to the beat of the mother's heart. God wants you to know how much he loves you. As part of this also, it talks about that John remembered the exact hour that he discovered Christ. In fact, it talks about it was the 10th hour, 4 in the afternoon. Do you remember a specific time in your life, down to the hour maybe, and the day, that love just overwhelmed you? You had the most incredible feeling of being loved. Well, spend some time journaling that and start seeking back in your memory times that maybe it wasn't so overwhelming, but you felt it in small little increments. That was the Father. That was the Father's divine provident will to let you feel his beating heart for you. Spend some time today jotting down when that has occurred to you. Yes, maybe it occurred through a stray dog that you met. Maybe it occurred with somebody helping you pick up groceries that fell everywhere when you were trying to get them out of the car. Maybe it occurred when somebody came to apologize to you for an argument that you had been in. But go back, hold on to some of those memories, and know that it wasn't just circumstances and just, that didn't count. No, it counts. And so you count it. You spend time writing it down and looking at it and feeling loved. Now, one of the other things from day 3 talks about beauty, and in particular, beholding the beauty of God's humility. Beauty and goodness and truth are 3 of the major attributes of God. but sometimes we take beauty for granted. So one of the things maybe to do today or sometime this week is look around your house. A lot of us put up art, photos of our family, etc. But find an art piece in your house. And if you don't have one, search online. Search for something that is very meaningful for you. But not just a beautiful picture of flowers or an ocean view. I mean, those are great, and they're divine gifts from God to you too. But search for an art piece that represents something out of the Bible, something about God, some kind of painting or photograph that really presents God's love in a way that's amazing to you. And get it, post it, put it on your, hang it up in your house and look at it often. And so that you start looking at the art that God has gifted others through their talent to be able to gift you. Okay. When you have finally discovered some of those special moments where God has touched your life, don't just keep them secret. Go out and share them with others. And you should feel a zeal to be able to do that. And if you don't, think about why. And think about ways that you could become more courageous to share these special moments. Okay, now we're going to look at day 4. Oh, the Jews in quote marks. Now again, as Father Gately is saying, he's not talking about all Jews. He's talking about the Jews especially that were part of the Jewish council, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, etc., that really hated Jesus. They were so worried he was going to take their power away, right? And so they're trying to trap him and get rid of him, even kill him if necessary, which of course they finally succeed in doing. But, and he's talking about how we also encounter different people in our lives that we look at that same way. We become very judgmental and judgmental in the wrong way. I mean, there are times that we need to judge, but in the wrong way where all we can do is nag about them, gossip about them, put them down. That's not the way to help them. We are meant to help people, even our enemies, and we're meant to love them. So when have I even looked at other people, maybe in my own religion, say being Catholic, and said, oh, well, they're just not Catholic enough, or, oh, that person, they're over the top. You know, they should just tone it down and get on with life. There's such a thing as too much religion. And in fact, a lot of people these days say there shouldn't be any religion. That's all superstitious stuff. So you can go on both sides of the spectrum with wrong thinking. And so it's good to identify to yourself, who am I doing wrong thinking about? And then you can start identifying, what do I need to change about my outlook? There's a lot of circumstances that probably made that person the way they are. And what could I do to help change them? You know, there's a true story that was on the news some years ago about a woman who was kidnapped by a robber in her own car. And, you know, he's fleeing the scene and he's very dangerous. He has a weapon and he's scared, he's angry that he's being caught. And she could be looking at him and just thinking, oh, how do I get out of this situation? Which I'm sure all of us would be doing. But instead, she looked at him and thought, how can I help him? Even if I lose my life, how can I help him? And she started sharing different things about the Bible with him. And he even told her, shut up, don't tell me about that stuff. And she persisted. Now she was careful, I'm sure, in how she persisted, but she persisted. And at the end, she came away with her life and his life. She got him to understand that God really loved him and that the right thing to do was to give himself up and not to lose his own life fleeing from this situation. That's us. Let's hope we don't get into such drastic situations. But people that we look at and say, oh, they're this way or that way, we have no idea what's happened to them in their past. In fact, one of the ways that I try to look at some of the people that I don't have a good response to is to look at them as a baby and think, what happened to them from the time that they were a baby to change them into this person that I'm not feeling like I want to be around. And so if we could learn more, maybe by asking questions of them. Yes, people make their own bad decisions as they get older also. But why did they make those decisions? And are they happy? They may think they're happy, but could you give them some examples or ask them some deeper questions that would help them start realizing, I'm not really happy